Hey, on this episode of the OCall podcast, we're going to be talking about logistics BOLC. I've got Alex here with me. He's a logistician by trade, a 91 Alpha. So let's begin.
All right. I personally think LOG-BOLC is really fun. So if any of you guys are going to logistics BOLC, you have a lot to look forward to. It's going to be a good time. You're going to meet some awesome people.
So moving on, I want to talk a little bit about the three logistics branches. So
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier before filming the cross-functional logistician concept. What is that?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, so we have three branches of logistics, right? We have transportation, we have quartermaster, and then the best, which is the Ordnance Corps. So all three of us go to the same BOLC, and it got to the point, so it used to be like at the captain level, they would all come together for cross-functional logistics BOLC, and they'd all become that 90 series.
Right.
So whether you were an 88 transportation or 92 quartermaster, 91 ordnance, they had a separate BOLC, but then at captain's career course, they would all come together and become cross-functional, well-versed in all three.
Yeah, and they'd lose that starter MOS, right?
And they would become different emblem, different MOS.
Nice.
You know, so now my year group was one of the first to go through this. So they basically made it so, yes, we were designated by classes of MOS. So trans class, quartermaster class, ordnance class. But ultimately we all went through the same exact curriculum and whatnot. And I guess that was designed to basically make it so that any of us could do any logistics job. So, like, I've seen quartermaster officers that are doing a maintenance officer's job, or an ordnance officer doing a transportation distro type role. So they made it so that, yes, we are designated as one of the three branches, but ultimately we can do all three in one.
Nice.
Yeah.
So let's talk about like leaving from your home of record and getting to BOLC. What'd you do?
Yeah, so logistics BOLC, so it's at the Army Logistics University. When I went, it was Fort Lee. Now it's Fort Greg Adams.
Okay.
It's in Virginia. So it's only 4 months, a 4-month course for transportation, quartermaster, and ordnance BOLC.
Okay.
So it ends up turning into a TDY en route. So you know what duty station you're going to go to, what unit you're going to go to, and then you go to BOLC en route. It's treated like a TDY. You get a per diem and everything for it, and you live out of the hotel if you're a single officer. If you're married or whatnot, like I noticed some of the people, like they got on-base housing, but for the most part, all of us lived in the hotel.
Nice. And you said you knew what duty station you were going to. That's different than...
Yeah, so I had an interesting situation. So in April of my MS4 spring semester, I ended up getting my orders. Like BOLC date and everything. Because, you know, it's different than combat arms like infantry armor, where you don't get your orders or find out where you're going until you're at BOLC. Whereas for us, we get it soon. And I had also requested the earliest BOLC date I could get, and nice. I was, you know, fortunate enough to get an early date. So yeah, April of spring semester, MS4 year, I ended up getting my orders. I found out when I was going to BOLC, which was only like a month after I commissioned. Yeah, went ahead, moved down to Fort Lee with all my stuff, and did my 4 months of BOLC.
Nice. So at BOLC, what were the living conditions like?
Yeah, so like I mentioned before, so most of us stay in the hotel. It's like a monstrosity of a hotel.
The IHG?
Yeah, it's an IHG Holiday Inn type situation, and it's massive. I want to say once we got to the middle of the summer, which is like the height of BOLC season, I want to say we averaged like 600 lieutenants in that hotel at once. Yeah, it was a massive hotel. Long hallways, like it was massive. But yeah, we lived in the hotel, and it was right across the street from the schoolhouse. So we would, in the mornings, like they had breakfast provided every day, which was nice.
Yeah, that's only 2 meals you got to pay for then, huh?
Yeah. So we would go to PT, then eat breakfast, and then go to class around like, I want to say 8:30 or 9. And we just walked across the street to the school. And yeah, it was pretty chill. I enjoyed living out of the hotel. They had like I think in one of the previous videos we mentioned meal prepping. We had like kitchens in our hotel room.
Oh, nice. Like
so,
kitchenettes or whatever.
Yeah, kitchenette, whatever you want to call that. So like stove, fridge,
Nice.
microwave, things like that. But yeah, the living conditions were not bad, and then housekeeping would come like every other day, so you never had to make your bed. It was awesome.
Yeah. And even better, I heard you had a bar downstairs, so you didn't have to go out
so
clubbing or
the
anything.
Sustainers pub. So yeah, in the basement or not the basement, but like the main floor of the hotel, right in the lobby, they had a bar. So if you're into that, or like you want a safe way to drink, and you can just walk up to your hotel room after, you can go to the Sustainers pub.
Nice. Something to look forward to if you're going logistics, I guess.
Yeah, it was a good life. I'm not gonna lie. We compared to some of the other Bullock stories I've heard, I think Logistics Bullock was cool. It was like college, but you're getting paid way more.
If you had to give any advice to any lieutenants or about to commission, getting ready for Logistics Bullock, what would you tell them?
I would say it's definitely a more academic heavy Bullock. So get ready to study, get ready to take notes, and do a lot of academic type stuff, a lot of tests, a lot of homework. I would also say show up in shape. I think any lieutenant who's going to Bullock should be in excellent physical condition. I'm not trying to sound like a douchebag, if you will, but I do think it's important, regardless of what you do. You're an officer. I think you need to be showing up in the best shape you can to your Bullock. Be receptive to learning. I had an excellent experience at Bullock because it was post-COVID, so like we had all our liberties.
Nice.
Yeah, so whether it was the social aspect or the academic classroom aspect, overall, Bullock was just a really good experience. Awesome professionals that I got to work with.
What was your transition like from Bullock to your first duty assignment?
Yeah, so I ended up, from my Bullock, I had to go across the country to get to my duty station. So I want to say I had three days of travel overall to get from Virginia to where we are. It's literally just pack up your car and drive across the country. Some people had U-Hauls because they already had their furniture and other household goods that they wanted to move. If you want, like for me, I grew up in Ohio and I went to school in Ohio. So if I was going to take any household goods, I had the option to have like movers show up to my house in Ohio.
Nice.
And move it across the country to where I was going. But I didn't do that. I was like, I'm just going to start fresh wherever I go, and I'm going to take the essentials. So I just loaded up my car at Bullock and I drove across the country.
Nice. That's what I did as well.
Yeah. It makes things a lot easier. You know, speaking of moving, like, because I'm getting ready to go overseas and like I'm having to move all my stuff out of my townhouse and I have way more stuff than before. Like I have beds, I have furniture, I have couches, I have chairs, I have tables, like all this other stuff. And I didn't realize how convenient it was to like just go from Bullock straight to my duty station and start fresh. Like you didn't have to worry about a U-Haul. You didn't have to worry about anything. It was just pack up the car and road trip.
So what about nightlife? What would you do for fun while you're at Bullock?
Probably just like any other Bullock, right? You form your cliques.
That's fair, yeah.
So I had my group of friends. There were 4 of us overall. We had our own thing. Like typically Friday nights, we'd go out to dinner together. We'd go to a restaurant or whatever, hang out. Weren't really into the whole party nightlife thing. I will say
fair.
there were a couple times we went out, but like lieutenants are different. Like you're gonna have some groups of lieutenants. They go out every night of the week. They go out. They want to have a good time. Richmond's right there, so they go into the city. For us, we would just go out to eat. So whether it was a Taco Tuesday or just Friday night, like let's wind down for the weekend. Let's go have a nice dinner and chill. There's this river in Richmond.
Okay.
And it was called Texas Beach. There was a part of it called Texas Beach. It was like it sounds kind of ghetto, but it was like just a little sandy area. People would go set up lawn chairs, chill, swim in the river, like just chill for the day, kind of like you go chill at the beach. Yeah. But yeah, we would do that on Saturdays, go hang out for a few hours. We were all into fitness, so we'd go work out.
Nice.
Nothing crazy, honestly.
You still keep in contact with those guys you met at Bullock?
Yeah, so I still have my group chat with them. The 3 main dudes that I hung out with, we still keep in touch. And then we still have our Bullock group chat open for our class, the ordnance class. And it does come in handy because like sometimes we'll bounce things off of each other because we're all the same dates, the same fiscal year, same everything. So, if someone has a question or whatever, like, hey, does anybody have a con op for this or a draw for this, or has anybody done a range for MMG or whatever, like things like that will network through that group chat. And yeah, I do keep in touch with my friends. It's not as like we don't talk as much as we did at BOLC, obviously,
Right.
But we do keep in touch and keep those connections.
Nice. So what can you tell me the difference between like a tactical leader and garrison leader in regards to logistics?
Yeah, absolutely. So at the lieutenant level, at that lower company grade officer level, I think that the jobs do vary, whether it's a maintenance oriented job or a distro oriented job or running an SSA, like a quartermaster officer, a warehouse type situation. What we do in garrison is a lot different than what we do in the field, what we do at the tactical level. So in garrison, we're just running daily operations. So services for, like, if you're maintenance like me, like you're running services, you're doing after operations maintenance when dudes are coming back from the field with their equipment, you're fixing their stuff. Distro is planning for future operations, or like if there's a range going on, distro is planning to, do the ammo supply, the ammo pickup, all of that stuff. If you're working at an SSA as a quartermaster guy, you're working out of a warehouse. But when we go to the field, obviously we operate differently. So like what I'm doing in garrison is not anything near what I'm doing in the field. I'm running convoys. I'm running tactical sustainment operations. It becomes a lot more simplified, but a lot more tactical when we're in the field. It's not the same thing.
All right, so now let's talk about some of the skills that you gain through the logistics branches that you can take to the civilian or after Army, like when you get out.
Yeah, so I think that's a big reason why a lot of people pick logistics, because a lot of us, while we do enjoy the tactical aspect of the Army, whether that's like an infantry-oriented thing like running sticks lanes or whatnot, stuff we did as cadets, a lot of us also want to develop skills that are more transferable. The people that tend to be more successful when they get out tend to be logisticians. I'm not saying that for everything. There's cyber, there's MedServ, there's MPs. Like, that's not to say logistics is the only thing that's going to get you paid when you get out, but it's definitely one of those more marketable skill sets that if you do it in the Army, it makes you way more appealing to an employer. Once you get out, you have a more transferable set of skill sets, whether it's supply chain management, maintenance, or even just things like, for example, we fielded a new platform for vehicles that replaced the Humvee. Understanding that platform, you can go work for the companies that manufacture them. So whether it's Oshkosh or Lockheed Martin or Boeing, whatever the case may be, all those big companies that work with the Army as far as manufacturing our items, us as logisticians, we definitely have a more appealing resume than maybe if you were infantry or
and you
artillery.
You can go be that law or FSR or subject matter expert, be a contractor for those
especially
companies.
Like being a liaison, like if they're working or dealing with contracts with the Army a lot, like if you already understand the platforms, you understand the technology, the weapon systems, and then you understand the Army, now you as a civilian can go work for those companies and deal better with contracts and things like that within the Department of Defense.
Yeah, so I'm guessing working like Department of Defense is going to be different than working at like Amazon or UPS or FedEx or something like that.
Yeah, it's definitely different because you're still connected to the military and the way the military does things. I will say, as a logistician, yes, some of the skill sets and the methodologies do transfer to, like, let's say working at an Amazon or working at a FedEx or dealing with some kind of logistics company or movement. However, I think it's important to take into account that running a logistics program in the military is far different than doing it for the civilians. Because before I joined the Army, I worked 3 years in medical logistics.
Nice.
And I can tell you that the way the civilian world is doing it is a lot different than the Army.
Even just different systems, different
systems,
records,
different methodologies. Like you said, records, how they keep track of things. All right, if you guys have any more questions about Logistics BOLC or what it entails, or you're interested in going into Army logistics, go ahead and put your questions down in the comments below, and we will answer those. And we will see you guys next time on the O-Call podcast.